All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for Onimonogatari, episode 2.
So the darkness appeared, and there were many lollies and some kisses amongst them. But now we are probably, as far as it seems to be said, we're going to be going into Shinobu's backstory from 400 years ago.
Yes.
Which is kind of crazy.
Will be quite something, given that we are given quite a pointed hint from Shinobu as to what that darkness is.
Right. Given that
what
it previously consumed her and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yes, and her relationship with said darkness in the past. So, yeah.
This will be interesting.
Yeah, this is an interesting detour from things, and we get more and more hints about stuff going on in the background that we are not aware of.
Yeah. Episode being brought back into the story. Does that mean that Shinobu's going to get hunted at some point? I don't know.
Yeah. So, y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. All right, everyone, we're going to be starting the episode in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, now. Little preface.
A warning.
Yeah. Aspect ratio feels more like cinematic.
Yeah. I love the art style.
Don't get jealous.
Right, because she's talking to Araragi.
Right. Ha. I see what you did there, yes.
Whoa. Okay.
That means her, it was a trip, to isolation, kind of.
Indeed.
But this is already setting up her loneliness and potential depression and stuff if she had wandered off to Antarctica. Existence beginning to weaken. Yep. This is cool.
Wow. But you landed on an island.
Oh my god.
Wow.
Oh wow, that's a skull.
Well, and Onimonogatari.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I know the name. We already discussed that in the previous one. There, it's like this one is the easiest to translate of them all, other than Bake. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And even easier in that respect.
Yeah. Now, if it was Bakemonogatari, that'd be a different story.
That's true. But yeah, the whole is the best of times is the worst of times and stuff. Like, where do you think Shinobu grew up, though? Is that something we'll never really explore?
That's, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Never thought about that.
I'm just wondering if that reference gives us a little bit of an idea.
Maybe.
Yeah, but just because quoting literature and stuff might give her an idea of what kind of literature she found to be, interesting. Huh.
Destroys everything around.
Oh wow.
Oh, so she actually
restabilized
saved
the
the country.
region.
Yeah. Of course, Shinobu would be making it rain.
Yeah.
So did they end up like worshiping her as a god or something? Oh. Yep. Yeah. Yep. All right. Cool.
Yeah, yeah.
The Church of Shinobu. It actually exists. Getting it recorded for posterity.
Nice. Well, crap. They're like never gonna get rain again.
Yeah.
Sure. Nope. Nope. Of course not.
Ah.
I love the microphone moving all the way down. Yeah. Most non-gods aren't fit to be gods. You know, kind of how that works. You know.
Cool. Food to eat. Wow.
Oh, no way. Is that the shrine?
No. No, because it's at the bottom of or at the bottom of a lake versus, the top of a mountain.
It's hundreds of years. But yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Okay, so she was able to sufficiently make this work then.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. All right. Which is not as you are.
Okay.
What would that be? Too simple? Oh.
Interesting.
Oh.
It's spine.
Something tells me that sword is going to get changed into a different sword. Dang.
Okay. Ah.
That was a long time ago. Yeah, I get you, Shinobu. Makes sense. The original aberration killer. Yeah, I wouldn't say that either. Yeah, no.
Oh,
Yep.
sure. Sure.
Almost a stately procession. Extremely long.
Yes.
Oh, so a replica. Okay. Heart and Dreams. Huh. Reviver. Oh. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Okay, that's kind of crazy. Huh.
This feels like we're getting a bit metaphorical now. Within this first minion was the capability to both, hurt her and restore her.
Mm-hmm.
So you attracted the aberrations.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Shinobu dealing with her own kind of negative
Yeah.
emotions and stuff and being an extremely strong and powerful individual attracts all the things that are attracted to the negative emotions. Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Whoa. None. That's
Really?
a pretty definitive word
Yeah.
there. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. Which just obviously. Wow. Can't even blink.
Well, here's the entrance for her being lonely.
The entrance. She went to Antarctica before
Well,
this.
yeah, that's true.
She was already lonely. Hmm. Uh, hmm. Avoided the problem, basically.
How long did she nap?
Hmm.
Okay.
Oh, what was happening to them? The real problem. Hmm. Whoa.
Okay.
Whoa. uh,
Okay.
hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he never ended up becoming your minion. Right.
Wow.
Um,
That's not much.
all right. Wow. So did you like bite the hand and wrist and
Yeah, and then he regenerated or something?
yeah, yeah. Mm. Uh-huh. Okay. Oh. Sure. Yeah.
Hmm. Whoa.
All right. Hmm. I don't know. I think I got kind of the gist of everything. Like there's obviously the stuff that was rapid fire being sent at from like the light novels or what have you. But like I feel like I got the gist of the whole story actually. Because so much of it was basically just kind of clarifying
Right.
things that were already exposited.
Yeah, the story elements I got. What I'm lost on is trying to figure out what and to what degree is the story behind the story that Monogatari usually does.
Well, it's the time she spends with this minion.
Right. Yeah.
I think it's just it's a relationship, a friendship,
Sure.
a lover, a person that ends up basically being really important to Shinobu. And then that time meant something.
Yeah. Time during which she forgot she was a vampire.
What?
Not in a literal sense, but, in the way she said, I bit his wrist and returned to being a vampire, Okay.
Yep.
Oh.
She couldn't. Okay. But that's a lot of time.
Yeah.
It's a lot of time then.
Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he assumed everything was her. Yep.
Hmm.
Not showing her face.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think there's a pretty definitive, obvious reason. Yep. Makes sense. Yep.
Right.
Whoa.
Okay.
Whoa. Okay.
Whew.
To become a god, I think you misunderstood. Because they devoured all of it. Ah.
Big three, yeah.
No, that's a different big three. Mm-hmm. Oh. All right. Well, that's
Okay.
That's the end of her recap.
Yep.
Of the story.
Right.
Do believe I don't think they're going to go any more into her kind of telling
Probably not
the story.
Yeah.
I think they basically were like, all right, we're going to get it all done here.
Yep, with those gorgeous stills, and now we have to basically resolve the current problem.
Currently,
mm-hmm.
this feels very similar to the experience she had back then, in that she's having a time in a specific area where she has the attention of a very specific person.
Yes.
Who is her minion, and well, in this case now, Araragi is her minion. I mean, well, no, they're more. It's a half. It's an interesting bit there.
Uh-huh.
But now this same darkness is coming to consume all around her here, which.
Which, okay, that means it doesn't necessarily have to be some manifestation of her depression, although it could be.
Oh, it probably is still.
Right. But given the fact that there was a point where it was where it literally consumed part of her, that is a thing. But but yes, I still think it's some sort of manifestation. However they would end up explaining it. But one of the things that I thought was like, well, it's. Whenever Shinobu's on screen and it's dealing with Shinobu, not Shinobu dealing with someone else, there's this, I feel like I have to like really dig deep into the subtext of the conversations and things like that.
Yeah. Because
Shinobu is so proud, she won't actually want to be vulnerable about certainly everything, right? Even if she is maybe opens up about some things. Yeah. So with sequences here, like the one at the end where it's talking about, you know, the fact that, whatever, he died and that was that kind of a thing. And I just didn't make any minions after that. That's something where it's a bit more obvious of like, okay, yeah, no, that seriously
hurt you.
That seriously hurt her.
That seriously hurt Shinobu.
Right.
And there's no way she was ever making another minion again.
Right. And that hence why when she did with Araragi, right, and hence Kizu, the Tale of the Wounded, right? Yep. You know, that wound was still festering, it comes around, and then she can't let Araragi kill himself as well. Yep. Because she's very lonely. Yep. So I love how this story gives a whole lot more context to Kizu, since the Kizu movies are so amazing already. Yeah. Right. Yeah. As for how it will come into play here in the present day, that's where what are your thoughts on that? Because I feel like it'll still be the same general issues that Shinobu's struggling with, you know, loneliness and depression and all that stuff. But because she's in a different situation now, what will that mean? Yeah. Your guess is as good as mine. I think the main thing that we can definitely see with Shinobu here is that the problem wasn't addressed. Shinobu ran away from the problem. Yep. The main thing that we can gather from this is that
the actual literal interpretation of 3/4 of her being consumed and a little bit of her got away and was able to regenerate, I think it's more important to say that she lost something. She left something behind. Now, I was trying to make the distinction early on that she's in Antarctica alone, going to see the
Borealis,
the Aurora Borealis.
Yes, right. That's it.
No. It says the trip was a failure. It's not that I'm good with cold. The problem was there was no people in Antarctica.
Right.
So, Shinobu, you were already extremely lonely.
Yeah.
She went here for whatever reason, but I almost want to just go a little bit in depth and just say this type of problem was chasing her around anyway, so she went to a place where she couldn't be hurt by any people.
Sure. Well,
and then the problem was, but there's no people, so how am I going to solve my loneliness? And stories of aberrations don't stand without talk of seeing or experiencing them, which is basically her saying, I mean, the story has to be interesting, so I need some outside perspectives to make this fun for you, Araragi.
Right.
Because polar bears and penguins don't talk about me.
Well, right, and the whole thing that they like sometimes bring up of like the whole idea that aberrations and and even gods will start because people believe in them, because people tell stories about them. The idea that if she's alone, if no one knows about her, she's
gonna be forgotten.
No, right, which is fantastic, because it's the whole idea of the things that usually keep people tethered to this world when they're in that dark place is other people. So when it's there's no one, then talking about like I felt like I was getting weaker. It's like
Here's the thing I liked that was really cool here. This is either a brilliant bit of, I would say, subtext writing, or it's just a simple kind of connotation to the environment that Antarctica is. And it says, like, I wasn't going to freeze to death, but somehow I felt my existence begin to weaken. I would say, actually, that when you experience loneliness or depression, you feel like your life tether is, like, weakening. It does feel like your existence, because this was something that they tied in later. They said, I felt like my existence was beginning to weaken. At the end of this, she mentions how he died and basically saying, well, since he's immortal, it would be more accurate to say he stopped existing.
Right. My existence beginning to weaken. Nice.
Now she can't die. She's immortal.
Yeah.
So there's no way this has anything to do necessarily with her actual existence. Now, they could end up having this be some latent mechanic within a vampire's what have you, where they need to be around people, or like she doesn't mention anything about being necessary for feeding to suck blood or what have you.
Yep. Which is,
I would say, if anything like that would actually be brought up literally.
Yes. Well,
no.
And that's one of the things that I'm always wondering about whenever Shinobu tells these stories, because Shinobu is so proud, and this is her at her peak back then, so she's at the height of her pride and everything, and
she is looking back with regret though, and probably a little bit of shame and negative emotions,
and how much of that is simply the time that's passed since then versus where she was at right then. And even her saying I was at the height of being a vampire, is that to cover up for the fact that vampire and being lonely kind of seem to go hand in hand for her.
Well, okay, yes. The other thing I was going to say here is like saying I wasn't going to freeze to death, but meaning that, no, you actually were going to freeze to death. I think a lot of the motifs they use with Shinobu in the red, basically, the whole blood aspect and, she being a vampire, there's probably a choice specifically why, they had her be a vampire as far as some kind of monstrosity creation or what have you, instead of like a dragon or, anything else, literally, or a demon, actually. Is that someone that sucks blood, sucks life, because they themselves, desperately require that humanity, that life,
in order to keep going,
that warmth, if you will.
Sure.
And except it's not mentioned at all here as it being a need to feed. So,
and yet she mentioned it later as like, when with the whole idea of her being the god for the region, that was always an issue, so it's like, okay, so why did she go there? Maybe it was simply to see the Aurora Borealis, like if I was a legendary vampire and could just jump to anywhere on the planet, I'd totally do that.
Right, but she'd obviously been able to do that anytime, so why'd she specifically do that then?
And why'd she stay there? Why'd she stay there? Like, did she actually go there because she felt bad about, like, feeding on people? Or what?
I also want to draw the connection that when she goes to Japan and starts getting treated like a god, she says that felt like a vacation, which means that in some ways you could contrast it by saying the previous stuff didn't feel as much like a vacation, even though it's literally a vacation kind of thing.
And maybe the reasoning for this isn't quite off, but I feel like there could be a lot of meat here. In Kizu, the thing that made Araragi most despair with his state of being a vampire, even though he was very depressed before then, was the idea of eating people, right? Mm-hmm. So if it was something where Shinobu wanted to basically avoid needing to feed on people, right? So she went to Antarctica or whatever because there wouldn't be any sort of temptations there. Okay, cool. But then she goes and becomes the god of this place, and they start treating her really well, right? And she didn't feed on them that whole time, and she saw it as being a very nice thing that she did not actually actively destroy unless, well, with the exception of the darkness potentially being a manifestation of her own depression, which could be that whole potential self-hatred thing of being like, okay, essentially pushing everyone away.
So we explained the mechanics as to how she became a god, that whole aspect of things. I'm very surprised in that it actually worked out rather well. So that was a good chunk of time. Mm-hmm. I think it was about a year that it lasted. Okay. And then her little moment of saying, like, besides my personality, I probably wasn't fit to be a god, and then did the close-up.
And the idea of, like, okay, it's, well, probably, speculation, whatever, but it probably wasn't about being a god, but it was rather about being able to coexist with people.
I mean, sure, yeah. She was in good spirits. It was easy to find a place to sleep, food to eat. It felt like a small vacation. My bed, to be precise, was created. That's kind of a fun little note to bring up there. Mm-hmm. The idea of, we make our own bed, so we have to lie in it. But then,
But she's a vampire, so she can literally...
No, I meant... yes, but, like, I'm saying in some ways it was made for her. Like, created. It was something that was, specifically made for her. That's that kind of aspect where you get that privilege of someone else basically making. Anyway.
Gotcha.
We end up going through her accomplishments and things that she does for this place. She even gathered rain clouds to make things work for them. What I see here is a lot of specific things with her, I would say, trying to basically make efforts for the people to be like, yes, I am worthy of being a god, but I see nothing of her actually connecting with the people.
Well, it could also be something where that was her attempt at connecting with the people.
Well, obviously I'm not talking about the attempts. I'm talking about there was no result of connection with the people.
Sure. But yes.
Oh, you're saying that it's important that this could have been an intent to do that?
Yes, exactly. Because the one, if there's an intent, then that means there's a
desire.
There's a desire, but there's also a consequence to the failure, right? It means something. It's not just, okay, this happened, but there was no connection, right? Oh. It was something that was maybe sought. And especially considering the fact that, and there was the whole talk about, like, her actually becoming a god and all that stuff, in the idea that maybe her nature was changing, which if she went to Antarctica in the first place to avoid humans so she wouldn't feed on them, then the idea of her nature changing is a big deal. And her doing those acts in order to make the people still treating her like a god so that she could continue living among people, that becomes a huge deal.
Yeah, but we hadn't had any of the nature change stuff yet in the story. That happens later.
What do you mean?
She didn't know anything about her nature changing via this point here.
Well, that's one of the things I actually wanted to go check over. When it's talking about her nature changing...
Oh, okay, that does happen almost directly afterwards here. No, it says, a way to kill time rather than be satisfied with free time. I thought that my power of existence would revive as long as they kept witnessing me. So This is the intent behind it here.
Yeah.
The intent was to find a way to revive her own state. If you will, this was a way to cheer her up.
Yes, right.
But unfortunately, life isn't quite that easy because they weren't witnessing me as an aberration, as a vampire.
Oh.
There was no way my powers would revive. It took me a while to realize
Oh,
that.
wow. So because she wasn't being real with them, because she was showing a fake self where everything was good about her, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to showing the parts about her that they might not like, that might scare them or whatever, right?
Sure. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
It didn't satisfy her.
Yep. There you go.
Yeah. Okay.
Problem was that I was continuing to be witnessed as a god. If you play with the devil, you become a devil. In that case, if someone calls you a god, you become a god. So this is definitely something like what you're saying, where she's putting out what she believes people want of her.
Right.
And I would say if you were to translate over this to someone who is dealing with a lack of connection with people and what have you, and everyone sees you on a misinterpreted specific version of yourself and goes, we like that, we want more of that, give us that, and you are like, well, that's not who I am, but hey, I'd like the connection with you, and you keep doing that, that will eat you up inside and will consume you, which is interesting because then the darkness comes after this.
Right.
Not before this, though.
So maybe the darkness isn't, like, it is her depression, but it's also a feeling of her not being true to herself, maybe?
Yeah.
Which could then be how it would tie into the present day, in that she's not truly existing as a vampire. Sure. And this is essentially the same thing as her being a god for that place, but instead it's her being a weakling. Okay. Right? And then the one time that she did actually open up to a person and she showed who she really was, he freaked out and said, you demon, you did this, all, and then killed himself.
Right. That was after the whole thing came, though. So, yeah. We end up introducing the original aberration killer, this nameless, faceless samurai with the ridiculously long heart span and dream span, I believe. Now, what's the symbolism there? Because they were demon swords specifically, and since he goes and fights aberrations, and they made the distinction of one of them, heart span, that's basically the heart underblade, the ridiculously long sword, but then the other one was apparently to revive aberrations,
which is like that's,
and yet it like never gets brought up,
right? Because that seems like the kind of thing that she would that Shinobu specifically needed, maybe not in a literal way, but potentially, considering that the thing that kills vampires the most is suicide, right? But yeah, since it's not really mentioned anymore, what, like, is it just a cool world building thing of sort of a yin yang, or no,
it's something important. It's either a symbol of the idea that
that's what he was to her, kind of a thing. Or?
Well, no. Let's think about the difference between heart and dreams. Like,
heart and
dreams.
Yeah.
One, the heart kills aberrations. I would say in some ways the heart being the key to the core of a person, the soul of who they are.
Right.
And people that need to deal with aberrations maybe coming in touch more with their heart. That's their strength or what have you. It's a sword that they pull out, when they need to use it. But dreams specifically being the thing that would revive aberrations, is that dreams more translating as fantasy? Is that dreams
or hope
more
for tomorrow?
Well, yes, obviously there's that. I'm meaning like, but like there's dreams, but then there's like this being a thing that actually helps aberrations. Like hope, is that that seems too good of a thing. Like,
well, I mean, it is something that apparently, there's the whole idea of it being a demon blade, but then apparently it also brings them back to life. So, I mean,
right. But specifically aberrations, which are a thing that would be, well, I guess that's more the point where they're not supposed to be seen. Aberrations are not supposed to be seen as good or bad or anything like that. Aberrations are like half the cast at this point. So
sure.
Or most of the cast, actually. So is it more of Yeah.
I don't know, like because to have something in the world that does something like that,
Mhm.
but to not actually see it,
Mhm.
to just like hear it be spoken of, even though it's in a first-hand account from
Mhm.
Shinobu, it still has this mythic feeling where who knows what it does, kind of a thing. Like even though
Okay.
they said exactly what it does, what exactly does that mean?
Sure.
Because like in some cases, okay, so you cut things to bring them back to life. If in the case of like say vampires, okay, they burn up and they're gone, right? They don't exist anymore, you know. But yeah, I don't know.
Okay. So we'll continue with dealing with aberrations.
Could it be something that the reason that it's actually there potentially is to showcase where Shinobu's at, because she kept Heartspan as a way to kill herself if she ever needed to, but she didn't keep Dreamspan? Because if with vampires you can make replicas of the weapons and stuff like that, and that's what the current Heartspan is. Maybe that's the point of it.
I don't know. So they've got the darkness coming around. They have to deal with it. Everyone did leave.
Yeah.
As if someone drew boundaries. Every villager past a certain point was safe. Those boundaries, in other words, whether or not they worship you, had become a boundary. No. We're right. If you want to be more precise, it was whether or not they knew me.
Wow.
Worship had no connection.
That's pretty crazy. As if she never existed.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, and if assuming that this is a manifestation of Shinobu, right? Some internal state of hers.
Yeah.
What is it exactly that made her want everyone who ever knew of her to disappear? Is it the way that like when people are depressed they'll want to cut themselves off from other people because they don't want to be around people even though that's what they need at that point?
This is something that she wants?
Well, because if the vortex darkness thing is connected to her, right? And something that she's going through on the inside.
Right. But it separated itself in that regard, that it's not connected to her currently.
Well, right. Well, it's external to her. Right. But if it was generated because of her, right? Then there would be some tie-in to her, emotional and personal issues that she was going through at the point, and the fact that it specifically took out anyone that knew her, regardless of whether they worshipped her or not. That just seems like if I were to make a connection, it makes me think of the times whenever I, was in a bad place and I didn't want to be around people, even though that would actually end up helping, right?
Okay.
And then what would the equivalent be now? Because if it's something similar, like getting rid of all the people around her,
Yeah, this part I think does lean into that, what you're talking about, saying that there was no buildup of negative energy. It was more mysterious than how all the inhabitants in the area had disappeared, and it grossed me out. But the choice of the words grossed me out. And then she says, it grossed me out, so I went home and napped. And then Aragi's like, come on. And then she's like, what? It's best to sleep things off when you're not feeling well, right? Like, well, that's true, but still. So to forget it all, I tried to go back to sleep again. And then it comes to this bit where it's like omitted.
Yeah.
Like, what was he rejecting? Was he rejecting the idea that she basically ran away from the problem again?
Or is it something that when she talked about it being like it grossed her out, was that actually her pride coming into play because she didn't want to say how it actually made her feel? So she takes the haughty approach of it grossed me out,
Well, usually, yeah, when something grosses you out, it's usually because it's reflecting something internally within you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Someone showed up to disturb me from my slumber. That's Aberration Killer. They were disappearing as well.
Oh,
and he was left all alone.
Was that when she had originally decided to die? The grossed her out, so she went to go sleep? And she wasn't intending to ever wake up, maybe? But then he comes along and he says, I need your help. So then she's like, okay, all right, this hurt you. Yeah, I'll try and patch that up.
Sure,
right?
Sure.
So he is her one lifeline, right? So then she goes around to help him out and all that stuff. Something happens, right? It gets complicated. She turns him into a vampire. You know, her one lifeline.
Yeah.
And he rejects her. He rejects her and he kills himself right in front of her.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and it consumes them.
Yeah.
Even I have never had my body shaved off in such a way. So just wanted to distance myself from it, but apparently I didn't have to go that far. Darkness never came chasing after me, no matter how long I waited. Now, what's interesting here is that I wouldn't call this, at this point, the darkness a literal kind of a point of depression then. Because I would say one of the most horrifying things about depression is that it doesn't leave you easily. In some ways, I would say that this is something that's specifically disconnecting her from others. So when she went to a place where she was alone, it's like, okay, cool. You're alone now, so.
Right. So maybe it was right. Maybe it's not like the depression as a whole. It's specifically the aspect that makes her want to cut herself off from people because loneliness is something she's familiar with.
Sure.
Sure,
it's more loneliness actually than depression. It's specifically just, okay, you're lonely, good, so I don't need to drive you towards loneliness anymore.
And that could be what it could be here is that she's actually made connections with people, and this could be a permanent change for her because from the perspective of Shinobu, everything that happens is just a blip, right? You know, the year spent as a god was just a short vacation, right? You know, so this here could still be considered short vacation, right? Except that she desperately needs this, and she knows she needs this, right? That's why when Araragi died in the alternate timeline, she went crazy, right?
Right.
So, given this here, maybe this is the last vestiges of her holding on to that comfort, like that I deserve to be lonely kind of a thing.
Okay, sure. End up getting through her means by which she revived him.
Yep.
But they end up talking about the reason being something along the lines of how there's this weird trick that people will fall into when they're, experiencing what they think is love and or arousal or something of that nature. And it's more just an excuse to leave progeny.
Right.
Which, let's actually bring up progeny and what that is. That is the most basic way that human beings kind of make their decisions based on things. Is we are a species.
Propagate the species, yeah.
Yep. But family and all that is one of the best ways to also combat loneliness.
Yes.
So
right. Yeah.
Kind of makes sense here.
Yep.
But more impulsive and unable to be restrained. That's my reason. My heart was weakened.
Yeah, and
that's it is right there.
And
that's the whole.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
And one of the things that I love about Shinobu's just dialogue, or just whenever she's speaking, is that because she's so proud and because she won't get at the actual issue a lot of the times because she doesn't want other people to know it, it also feels like she doesn't want to acknowledge it herself, which then means that all the things that she specifically says as a way to sidestep the issue actually does give not just the fact that she's sidestepping, but the way that she sidesteps gives potentially a lot of insight into her character because it shows where her vulnerabilities are in relation to this thing.
Yeah. And then they spell it out literally at the end here. It says, because I didn't want to be alone, I stopped being a god and returned to being a vampire.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Go through the ED, and their episode continues. he came back to life. We end up connecting things back to a lot of the information that we already knew based on previous stuff, where he gave up on life.
Yep.
And in this case, we now find out exactly what kind of the circumstances were that led to this point.
Right.
First thing he said to us, "You monster, how dare you scheme against us? Everything was your doing." But he was placing blame. That's when he began talking about receiving divine punishment and such too, which is interesting because I don't know if he's actually talking about himself there, or if he's talking about Shinobu,
or both.
Yes, but yeah.
What's the main focus?
What's the main focus here? Yeah. I almost think it has to be Shinobu, but there is that potential where it bleeds a little bit into him.
Right. One of the things that I love here is that they have the spotlight on Shinobu, but then also on an empty chair. It's not on Araragi. It's on an empty chair.
Oh. What does that mean, though?
Basically just bringing attention to the absence of someone. In this case, probably
sure.
Her minion.
Gotcha.
Yet after hearing that, you must have been unsettled. No, not really. It wasn't that bad. They don't show her face and she starts fidgeting.
Yep, it's literally a lie right there.
Pushes her knees together, yeah.
Or is it a part, actually? Yeah, I think it's a part. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Or wait, actually, it doesn't matter, but yeah, it's a fidget basically of
right.
Yeah.
Oh, I found it a chore to undo the misunderstanding, so I let him say whatever he wanted to. Sure. Or it hurt and you didn't know what to say, and then it was too late.
Yeah.
Or you weren't sure if it was too late, but you were scared to go out into the sunlight yourself.
Yeah.
Hence why you dove after Araragi and Kizu.
Yeah. What I find to be rather interesting with the art here is how it shows her in the water holding on to a hand with a lot more than just a wrist now. Meaning that she maybe did try to save him.
Oh.
Saying I couldn't stop him, I couldn't save him. Not saying I didn't.
Oh. Yeah. Because at first, that's a great point. Because at first when I saw that, I thought that was just showing how she revived him originally, you know?
Right. But instead you could look at it as be like, well, actually the size of it is a little bit bigger now.
Yeah.
And it also looks charred.
And yeah, that too. But also, even if it wasn't, it could just be the idea of her wishing she could do that again.
Yeah, I think that's what she's trying to do, obviously. Yeah. She's got her mouth on it. She's trying to bite it again. The blood goes out there. And then she screaming up to the, auroras of just, Yeah,
the first time he called her by her name and just kiss shot was when he killed himself.
And that was what Araragi had as a situation in his beginning stages as well. That he called her kiss shot as well.
Yep.
Yeah. Right after.
I'm really interested to rewatch Kizu after all this.
Yeah,
I mean, there are so many things that give good excuses to rewatch Kizu.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
But,
and I like how they brought back, I mentioned it earlier, because of the body's immortality, it's more precise to say that he ceased to exist, that he died.
Than that he died, which recontextualizes, in case, it wasn't clear before, all the times that she said she felt her existence was weakening and needed to sustain her existence.
And then he left behind a replica of the demon sword Heartspan that he created from his flesh and bones. I'm sure he created it with the intent of killing me, even though it's basically leaving his heart in his bones and ashes for her. Which you could say in the negative context. Sure, it has created with the intent of killing me, but it might be a couple other things. This is where my brain went into wild territory here. One, it's his heart as being like, I'm sorry, this is all I can give you. Two, it's if you want to join me.
Right. I know you're lonely. Yeah.
You take this. This can help you join me there. And I think it could have been all of them.
Yep.
I really think that the last one that I mentioned there feels... It feels right.
Mm-hmm.
But it could also... I want to contextualize that last one again, is that you could use that also in a positive, but it also could be a way of, please, here's a gun with one bullet in it. Please kill yourself, basically.
Yeah, which is
even darker and more messed up.
Yep.
Until then, for whatever reason, I had not made any minions. I misinterpreted this originally and thought it meant, I don't know, whatever reason I didn't make any minions after that.
Yeah.
My brain was being a dumb. But
right after, she's like, and then I promised
never to make any minions. I swear to God I wouldn't do it. Yeah. But this, what I find rather interesting, is that she had been around for a good portion of time as a vampire.
Yeah,
she was at
100 years.
Yeah. But the thing is, she said she hadn't made any minions.
Right. Which
tells you, yes, she was lonely. There was no one else that she was spending an exorbitant amount of time with.
Well, and now,
she had basically eternity to look forward to.
Now, this is me going out on a limb. But one of the things that I often wonder about in the case of vampires, given how they're set up in Monogatari, is one, why haven't they just destroyed the entire world? Two, why aren't there more vampires? Because if they are so unkillable, then once a minion is made, unless the vampires do each other in or something like that, they wouldn't, like, it. That'd just be, there's now permanently one more vampire in the world, right? In this case here, what if there was more of a reason why she didn't make a minion in 100 years? It wasn't just that she hadn't thought of it, right? Or, she was lonely, sure, and maybe that's why she all this stuff ended up happening. But what if, because we know that Shinobu's proud, what if it was something where she didn't want to share? She didn't want to she didn't want to be vulnerable with someone, in a sense, because we know that is a thing that causes, like, that happens when vampires make a minion, right? They're linked. So then, and then only in extenuating circumstances here did she essentially overcome her own pride and make a minion, and then, nope, rejected. Because, and maybe it's something where it's just that it takes, a vampire has to, like, intentionally do it, because otherwise they just, they just kill the person and eat them and all that stuff, and, there you go, right? But, yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, then that's we getting her promise.
Yep.
And then Araragi's reaction to that. She couldn't hit it off with humans as a god or a vampire. Yep. Demon soliloquy, story 400 years ago, with this bad ending, the curtain falls.
Oh.
There's that also bit where, you have the story of 400 years ago. That chair doesn't get highlighted anymore. So, there's something else there to what you're saying with the chair. And then her highlight disappears as well.
One of the other things I'm slightly curious about, or not curious about, it's more of just a connection I saw, was that she said she swore to God that she would never make another minion. Now, that's a fairly general saying, right? But since that she spent a year as a god, could it also be considered that she's swearing it to that better self that she had? To that part where she was able to make it all work, that she would never do it again. Just something I thought of, but
okay.
Great episode.
Yeah,
I
I definitely love contextual kind of backstory stuff and things like that. This one, I feel like you've been doing like some research or something like that with specifically Shinobu recently, and I just haven't. So you're like really certain about certain aspects of her characterization that I'm just not aware of, or what have you, or I'm not paying attention to. But I thought that this one told us a lot of things that are necessary for us to know with regards to her character, but it told us, I would say, not really much of anything with regards to the actual nature of the darkness.
Right. So we'll have to see. Yeah.
So that's coming in a coming in a later bit here.
Yep. But the stage has been set.
Right. Because I think if anything, it told us what it's not.
Sure.
And it really only told us, I'd say, like one thing that it's not. And maybe it focused us a little bit more on the, hey, pay attention to the loneliness thing here. This is the reason why Shinobu is so lonely, as far as in the story.
Gotcha.
But yeah. Okay. Cool. That's Onimonogatari episode 2.
Yep.
Thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get an early access there, and any level support gets you access to our Discord, where you can chat with us in the community there about this show, about anime in general, and you can talk with Jacob about the book that he wrote.
That's right. In case you, for some reason, haven't heard yet, all the way at the end of this discussion, in the middle of Monogatari, I wrote a sci-fi novel called Battle Lines. It's available for purchase on Amazon. Link in the description. Hardback and ebook, so whichever works best for you. Go check it out.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.